The Galactic Academy was said to be the safest institution in the known universe. Floating in the neutral orbit between four empires, it was a sanctuary where young minds from hundreds of species gathered to learn, exchange knowledge, and forge the future. Armored patrol ships guarded its perimeter, and the station itself had layer after layer of automated defenses. Which was why, when the alarms howled through its pristine halls, no one could believe it was real. Beginning the breach. Cadet Marcus Hale had been reviewing tactical simulations late into the station's artificial night. He wasn't one of the star students. Humans rarely were in a place dominated by species that had been in space for millennia, but he had a knack for persistence. His dorm room was dark except for the glow of his datapad. That was when the first shriek of warning cut through the silence. Breach detected. Sections C12 through C19 compromised. All cadets to safe zones immediately. Marcus frowned. This had to be a drill. The Academy ran endless simulations to keep cadets sharp. But when the corridor lights shifted from cool blue to pulsing red, and he heard the unmistakable sound of plasma fire in the distance, his gut told him this was no training scenario. He grabbed his uniform jacket, a compact survival knife, one of the few things humans were allowed to keep as cultural tools, and slipped out of his quarters. The halls were chaos. Students of every size and shape, scaled, furred, feathered, were rushing toward the safe chambers. A six-legged Ixari shoved past him, its translator chirping in panic. Not a drill. Raiders. How did they get inside? Raiders. Marcus's blood went cold. Pirates had breached the Academy. Impossible. And yet, the sizzling thunder of plasma shots echoed closer. A security droid rolled past, then exploded in a shower of sparks before it could fire. A dark figure stepped over the wreckage. Tall, armored, helmeted. Not a cadet. Not a guard. Hostile. Marcus ducked back into a side corridor, heart hammering. He wasn't armed, not really. Humans weren't trusted with blasters here. But he had something else no one ever accounted for. Middle. The Predator emerges. The Academy security grid was shutting down section by section. Whoever had infiltrated knew exactly where to hit. Marcus had grown up on Earth, in a neighborhood where power outages and prowlers weren't uncommon. He'd learned how to move in the dark. He slipped through maintenance tunnels while chaos erupted in the larger halls. Raiders corralled cadets, driving them toward the hangar bays. From snippets of overheard chatter, Marcus pieced it together. This wasn't simple piracy. The attackers were hired. Someone wanted hostages. He crawled into a vent above section C17 and peered down. 20 cadets huddled together. 3 insectoid trishaks, a pair of scaled Varu twins, and a dozen others. 2 raiders paced around them. One was armored in jagged black plates, carrying a plasma rifle. The other removed his helmet, a Rakiri predator species scar across his muzzle. Orders are clear, the Rakiri growled. Secure the high-value cadets. Kill the rest if they resist. Marcus's jaw clenched. The others were terrified, too paralyzed to resist. No one would fight back. They weren't trained for this. The Academy was supposed to be safe. He realized something in that moment. The raiders expected compliance. They expected prey. Marcus had no weapons. But humans had hunted with worse odds since the Stone Age. He studied the vent's bolts. Not maintained. With quiet patience. He worked them loose using his knife. When the last one came free, he braced himself. The armored raider paced directly beneath. Marcus dropped. The impact was brutal, armor versus flesh, but he landed square on the raider's shoulders. His knife plunged into the joint between helmet and breastplate. The man convulsed, gurgled, and collapsed before he could cry out. Plasma rifle clattered to the floor. Gasps rose from the cadets. The Rikiri spun, teeth bared. What? Marcus didn't hesitate. He scooped up the plasma rifle, rolled behind the fallen body, and fired. The blast tore into the Rikiri's chest, sending him sprawling with a howl. Smoke filled the chamber. The cadets stared at Marcus in shock. He looked more like a predator than their captors had. "Get to the tunnels," Marcus hissed. "Now. Move quietly. Follow the maintenance lines." One of the Varu twins stammered. How did you?" "Later," Marcus cut him off. "Go." They obeyed. The halls became a hunting ground. Raiders expected panicked cadets fleeing in herds. They did not expect a human stalking them. Marcus moved through the ducts, ambushing stragglers. He stole weapons, learned their weight quickly. Plasma rifles were powerful but clumsy. Sidearms were better for tight spaces. He set traps, rigging doors to slam shut, faking noises down one hall while striking from another. Whispers began to spread among the cadets who hadn't reached safe zones. Something was fighting back. Raiders turned corners and didn't return. Bodies began to pile up in the shadows. One surviving raider calmed his squad. "We've got a problem. There's something out there." Another security droid. "No, worse. It's hunting us." Turning point, predator and prey. Hours passed. Marcus had memorized their patrol patterns, their weaknesses. But exhaustion crept in. He was just one student against an armed strike team. While creeping through the hydroponics bay, he nearly walked into a trio of raiders. Too many to take head-on. He ducked into the foliage, heart pounding. The humid air smelled of damp earth, almost like home. One raider laughed. "This section's clear. Whoever's killing our men, we'll flush him out soon enough." Marcus froze, listening. "Captain says it's just one of the cadets. A human." Human. The soft world primitives. "Yeah. Must have gotten lucky. Doesn't matter. He won't last." Marcus's lips curled into a grim smile. They didn't fear him. Not yet. He waited until one strayed too close, then sprang. His blade slashed across exposed flesh. The raider screamed, staggering back into the hydroponic tanks. The others opened fire, but Marcus was already gone, vanishing into the greenery like a shadow. The last words they heard before he disappeared again. "Prey doesn't hunt you back." Climax. The last stand. The raiders began retreating toward their extraction point, dragging the hostages they'd already secured. Their confidence was fractured. Every shadow might conceal the human. Every flicker of light made them twitch. Marcus followed, bleeding from burns and cuts. He was running on pure adrenaline. But he wasn't going to stop. Not while any cadet was still in danger. The hangar bay loomed ahead. The raiders were loading students into a transport. 30 hostages, guarded by 6 armored figures. Marcus counted his stolen charges. 4 shots left in the sidearm. Not enough. He scanned the hangar. High scaffolding, loose power conduits, fuel lines. Dangerous, unstable. Perfect. He climbed silently up the scaffolding, dragging one of the conduits into position. The raiders barked orders below. Engines whined as the transport powered up. Marcus whispered to himself. "One shot." He fired at the conduit. Sparks erupted, cascading down like a storm of fire. Fuel ignited. The hangar filled with blinding light and thunder. Raiders shouted in confusion. Marcus dropped from above, slamming into the nearest guard. His knife drove deep. Plasma blasts whizzed around him as he rolled, fired his last shots, and snatched up another weapon. It was chaos. Raiders firing blindly, cadets screaming, alarms howling. In the smoke and flame, Marcus was everywhere and nowhere, striking, vanishing, striking again. Finally, only one raider remained, the captain, towering in heavy armor. His helmet tracked Marcus through the haze. "You think you're clever, human. You're nothing but an animal playing soldier." Marcus staggered forward, bloodied but unbroken. "Funny thing about animals," he rasped. "We remember how to hunt." The captain charged. Plasma sword hissed to life. Marcus ducked, slamming his stolen rifle into the captain's chest plate and pulling the trigger until the weapon overheated. Energy burst through armor, searing flesh. The captain roared, swung wide, and Marcus rammed his knife into the exposed joint under the arm. The giant collapsed. Silence fell, broken only by the hiss of burning fuel. Ending the aftermath. Security reinforcements finally stormed the hangar, too late to have saved anyone. They found Marcus standing amid wreckage and bodies, breathing raggedly, knife still dripping. The cadets he'd freed stared at him with wide eyes. None spoke. They didn't know what to say. Later, when the surviving raiders' logs were reviewed, one phrase appeared over and over. "We are being hunted." The Galactic Academy launched an inquiry. How had a breach been possible? Who had orchestrated it? Those questions would take years to unravel. But one fact was undeniable. Of all the species represented, only a human cadet had fought back like a predator in the dark. Marcus Hale was summoned before the Academy Council. Ancient beings with eyes like suns and voices like storms looked down at him. "You acted with violence unbecoming of a cadet," one counselor intoned. Another interrupted. "And yet, without you, dozens would be dead. Perhaps more." The chamber was silent, until the Trishak cadet he had saved stepped forward, trembling but resolute. "He may not look like a predator, but when the shadows fell, he became one. He saved us all." Word spread. Whispers carried through the galaxy. Humans, those soft-world newcomers, could become monsters when cornered. Prey that turned predator. Marcus didn't crave the fear or the legend. He just wanted his fellow students alive. But deep down, he couldn't deny the truth. The night the Academy was breached, humanity had shown the galaxy a glimpse of what lurked in its dark. And the galaxy would never forget.